Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time of the week once again for the brand new set of weekly challenges. Up this week is going to be purely monetary gain, as well as some fairly overall short and easy events to complete. So heading over for an overview of all the events and rewards on offer. For completing one event it is 100,000 credits, for completing 3 events is 200,000 credits, and completing all 5 events is 500,000 credits. In terms of the events themselves, up first is the European Sunday Cup 400. This is one we don't really see too often. That is at Kyoto Driving Park Euro. Then we head over to the Nürburgring sprint layout for the Japanese 4-wheel drive challenge 600. After that we do have a brand new special event which is going to be on Eiger Nordwand reversed. Unfortunately though, it is the Volvo V40 T5 one make. Honestly, this one keeps popping up and I'm just not really the biggest fan of it. However, I do appreciate making use of that new track. Then we have the race of the turbo sports cars, that is over at Dragon Trail Seaside. And then also to finish off, we have the WTC 800 once again, this time at Suzuka circuit. So let's kick things off with the European Sunday Cup 400 at Kyoto Driving Park. Of course, this is for some of the slower cars in the game. I'm also going to be trying to do it on the hardest difficulty and keep my car as close to all the limits as possible. It's going to be a quick, short sprint race to begin this week. So for the first event of the week, I'm going to be using the Clio V6 for this event. Now in terms of the event itself, it's really not that difficult. There's only 8 cars on the grid, including yourself. It's a 2-lap sprint race, so we don't need to worry about tyre life or fuel usage. Just get in a car, have a blast and get this event done and dusted. Again, you'll just be picking them off one by one. There'll be cars that might be in their certain little groups, but overall it's a fairly spread out grid. You'll probably expect to have a bit of difficulty towards the front of the grid though, if you're doing what I do here and matching the sort of PP limit and stuff like that. Now in terms of those cars, there's the likes of the Audi TT and one of the more modern Renault Clios. I did find that these were a little bit tougher to take on, but again the AI is fairly inconsistent at times and should allow you to pick them off anyway. As you can see through that long string of corners that goes uphill, that is where the AI is going to lose the majority of the time. After that, just keep it clean. I managed to win by around about 2.7 seconds in the end, and that's going to give me tick number 1 of the week and 37,500 credits with that clean race bonus, of course with the 100,000 credit ticket on top for around about 5 minutes of my time. So moving on to the second event of the week, this is the Japanese 4-wheel drive challenge 600 over at the Nürburgring sprint. In terms of this event, once again it's a sprint race, no fuel or tyres to worry about, of course aimed at Japanese 4-wheel drive cars in the range of 600 pp. Now I went for an R33 GTR tuned to around about 599 pp. This was absolutely perfect for this event. Felt really good and made the event not too difficult and not too easy. Now in terms of the AI, again there's not many of them on track. There's 10 cars including yourself, so just pick them off one by one. Whilst there isn't the spread that you saw in the previous event, there is still a fair gap between the first AI and the front leading AI. So just be aware of that you will need to be relatively quick. However, you do have an extra lap with this one in 3 laps total to get this one done. It should be plenty enough time. The AI does have a bit of a weak spot there. When you go downhill off the straight, they do tend to brake very hard and it loses them almost 2 to 3 seconds at time. I took the lead going on to the start of lap 2. I just got it down the inside, braking as late as possible and took 3 in 1. After that it was all about keeping it clean for the remaining of the event, taking the win by around about 15 seconds in the end, and that is going to give me tick number 2 of the week. Unfortunately not getting the clean race bonus for this one. I took away 40,000 credits. With that done, let's move on to event number 3. So let's move on to event number 3 of the week. Of course, this is the returning special event for the Volvo V40 T5 as a one-make race. Thankfully though, this time around it is on the new track, which honestly does suit these kind of vehicles. So it is pretty enjoyable and probably the best version of the V41 make that we've seen so far. I'll make no qualms about it though, I am just not the biggest fan of this vehicle. However, in terms of the racing, it's not too bad. I'd say 12 cars is just about right for this grid and this track layout. And in terms of the cars themselves, they're fairly spread out, so you'll be kind of once again just picking them off one by one. However, some of them do seem to feature a few minor upgrades, so just bear that in mind that you probably won't want to use a full standard Volvo. You might want to put a few upgrades on them. In terms of picking them off, because it's a relatively very tight track layout at times, you just want to be planning ahead where you're going to pick them off, how you're going to outrun them, and how you're going to secure each position. As you start getting towards the front of the grid, there is a fair gap between, I'd say about 5th backwards, and then obviously the front leaders. They're relatively close and not too spread out, so that's when it's really going to ramp up in terms of how you choose to do your overtakes. So this is a 6-lap event, and I did manage to take the lead towards the sort of latter stages of the 4th lap. At that point, it was all about keeping it as clean as possible. A lot of the AI in the front pack tripping up over each other, which did allow me to pull out a fairly healthy lead in the end. Overall, though, a pretty enjoyable event and well paying as well at 127,500 credits with that clean race bonus, and of course topped up with 200k. So let's move on to race number 4 of the week. This is Race of the Turbo Sports Cars over at Dragon Trail Seaside, of course featuring that legendary death chicane. Now in terms of the event itself, it is a bit longer in length than the others that we've seen. It's 5 laps total on a pretty longer layout. Now in terms of the cars that you're up against, there's going to be 16 cars on the grid. It's still very much a sprint format race, so again, don't worry about the likes of tyres, fuel or anything like that. In terms of the grid, fairly spread out overall. You'll find that cars are just running in packs constantly, so just pick each pack off one by one and you should be absolutely fine to get this one done. Now there is a 700 pp limit cap on this one, which is exactly what I'm doing here, running an Alfa Romeo 4C, which is the road version, very much tuned up for 700 pp. Typically my Le Mans build, so it featured insane acceleration and top speed, but as you can see, it did get a little bit sketchy through some of the corners, especially when running the curbs, considering how low this thing runs. Honestly, as long as you've been building 700 pp turbo cars since update 1.49, you should get this one done and dusted, no problem. I know it says 700 pp, but that's still in a very abusable limit in terms of what you can squeeze out of a car. Now obviously the Alfa I'm running here, like I said, it's very much a Le Mans build, and the top speed and acceleration none of these cars could handle. In the end, we did take a relatively easy win. The rest of it though, you just want to keep it clean as possible through the death chicane. It can be very awkward through there at times, so just be on your toes at that point. However, for the rest of the track, it's really not too bad. I took the win by around about 40 seconds in the end, so pretty extreme gap. Tick number 4 of the week and 127,500 credits with the clean race bonus, as well as a 4-star daily. So moving on to the final event of the week, this is the WTC 800 once again, this time at Suzuka circuit, so of course expect varying weather. Now in terms of the event, it does seem pretty random depending on how you run it, etc, so don't expect each event to play out the same. So what I got here might not be what you got. I went for the Genesis Group 1. This is a fairly decent car that can go very deep in the race and, kind of adapt to each changing circumstance with weather, tyres, fuel and all that stuff. Now I just went to aim to sort of balance my fuel overall, so sort of like fuel mix 6, fuel mix 3 and fuel mix 4 were absolutely perfect. This ensured that I had absolutely enough fuel to the end of the event that I wouldn't need to pit. All I'm doing in this race is just constantly monitoring the weather. I'm going to be relatively much quicker on average than the AI, so they're not too much of a worry, even though they are fairly spread out and it is a full 20 car grid. However, we did get a bunch of rain threatening towards the latter stages, and in fact through most of the event it was there or thereabouts, ready to come in. In terms of the AI though, they will pit even if it doesn't rain, allowing you to constantly extend that gap out in front. Pretty ridiculous, to be totally honest. In the end, I did end up with, some cars lapped and a pretty ridiculous lead of around about a minute plus. Again, every time they pit, they're just losing more time. They're always running the hard compound of tyre, but it does seem that fuel will catch them out. So in the end, 10 laps done and dusted, a minute gap in the end, so overall not too bad. Tick number 5 of the week, and of course the final reward of the week. Now I took 168,000 credits just from the payout itself for the event, relatively low. However, we do get that 500k top up. So let's head over to the rewards for this week. Of course, we're going to open up the daily marathon ticket first. This was a 4-star, so I'm not really expecting much. Typically, I do end up with the worst reward every single time, and once again, it's the same this time. So I'm going to take away 10,000 credits from that one, so a slight extra credit boost if anything. We're then going to add the 100k to the account for completing one event, and then head over and put the 200k for 3 events, and of course finally taking us over the 49 million mark is the 500k for all events. A big thank you to all of my channel members for their continued support. If you do want to join, it really does help me out between uploads. Massive thank you to you guys watching at home. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Take care guys, peace.